What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to Let's Build the U.S.S. Voyager Season 1, Episode 21. I'm Zero Elite, and I just want to thank you very much for tuning in today's episode. If you haven't, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button, help a mean supporting the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. Today we've got about a 19-minute episode. We're going to be picking up our work right where we left off in Episode 20, blending in our lower hull with our neck. Or excuse me, with the saucer. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. By the end of today's episode, we're going to have almost all of the lower hull filled in, with an exception of right up to the shuttle bay area. Now this is going to be by design, and my reason for that is because at this point in the tutorial, I'm still figuring out what I'm going to do with the shuttle bay. Now I want to briefly talk about what we got going on here. You can see that I just deleted the row of the red concrete and then this row of the white concrete, which is essentially the same row. So see, we're going to delete all the red concrete on this row. It's on the same height line as our white concrete, so we're just going to continue that on, and we're going to delete this row as well. We're just going to bring that going all the way back. And we're going to stop just one shy. So now we're going to continue on what we were doing in the last couple of episodes, bringing our pattern from our saucer to the lower hull. So to do that, we're going to follow our template for the center and not the sides. I'm not going to lie, this was a bit of a trial and error process. It took me a little bit to kind of figure out what the best course of action to do was. Overall, I'm pretty happy with how this area of the ship ultimately turns out, but I wish I had made Voyager, even what she ends up as, I wish she was just a little bit thinner than what she would have ultimately have been, because when the ship is done, you're going to see there's just a tiny, tiny gap between the sides of the lower hull and the top, and that's just because my blending wasn't perfect. Is it a game change? Is it a deal breaker for the build? I don't think so. I think the ship looks fine, but you know, I'm always going to be my own worst critic when it comes to things like that, and there's always something to learn from a build that you're working on, at least in my opinion. But all things considered, I think this is going to turn out just fine. So we're just continuing on. We're going with our cut line. You can see I'm going along the right side of the ship now, and I'm just continuing on my pattern. That's more or less what all of today's episode is going to be. Just continuing on the pattern from the saucer, bringing it over to the outline of our top section of the lower hull, and once we have that in place, then we can kind of go back and rework the backbone of the neck. But we need to get this blending in place now, so that this way when we add our neck, that's just one less thing that we have to worry about, and then at that point it's just going to be a matter of blending in the neck with what we've already got for our lower hull. So I'm coming up top here with the hole at the top where our saucer meets the lower hull. We were at the bottom, now we're at the top of it, and we're going to work on filling all of this in. And again, just doing the same thing. We're looking to see what our pattern is from our saucer, and we're just bringing that down with our cut line. As long as you're doing that, you can't make a mistake. And if you did, you need to go back, check your work, look at your template, and your template is going to be your guiding point as far as what you need to do here. And our template is our cut line, and it's our pattern that we've already got in place. So now after we did the white quartz, we're going to come back with half slabs directly behind that, and then white concrete directly behind that. Or not white concrete, the white quartz directly behind that, excuse me. And then behind that, then we'll go to the white concrete. Alright, now we need to go back to the quartz. As again, I'm just looking at what the pattern is on the side to figure out which block I need to do. So now I know that we're going to go back to the half slabs. I'm just going to do the white concrete and then we'll do the half slabs on top of it. And now we need a light gray. Alright. That's looking pretty good. We're just going to fix up this end here. I mean, at this point, this particular area that we're at in the dead center, this is going to be enclosed. So that's not necessarily a huge deal at this point. But I'm just going to close all this in right here. There we go. And you should have something that looks just like that. See, let me just rewind just a little. There we go. So now when we go back and when we have the sides closed in here, when we go back we add in our new backbone, it'll be easier to blend in because we'll already have our template in place. We'll have an idea of what we have to do to make our new backbone work with the shape that we've already got. So now we're going back to the bottom side of our template for the top section of the lower hull. We're going to be adding a row of white quartz going with our cut line right after the white concrete. Now this is why I say sometimes it's good to where if you're getting stuck, take a break from what you're working on, because you got to understand, coming up with this plan of attack basically was not something that I just up and decided right away. Sometimes it can take a little bit of time to figure out exactly what you want to do. Like I said, when you're not 100% sure, best thing to do is just take a break from what you're doing. This way you can kind of just, think about it a little bit, figure out what you want to do, and then come back with a fresh set of eyes and then kind of reassess what's going on if you haven't, or reassess what you've done to figure out what you have to do. And if need be, make an extra save and do your experimentation. Work out a couple of different patterns. You don't have to do exactly what I'm doing here. Maybe you decide that you don't like the overall look of the top section of the lower hull and you want to figure it out. This is why I say having those extra saves are so vital, so that this way if you want to experiment and work on a couple of different things, you can do that on an alternate save. If you don't like it, you just delete it and revert back to what I do is I'll make a save, I'll make multiple saves right before I'm going to do some experimentation, and if it doesn't work, I just delete that save with the experimentation and I go right back to the immediate save, so this way I don't have to try to backtrack. Super helpful when you're trying to figure out what you're going to do. So alright, we've added in our transition point to the, we've gotten to the point where our half slabs are meeting the lip to the side. So what we're basically just going to do here is we're just going to fill in the gap and see how it looks. Now, when we zoom out, Voyager is going to look a little bit chunky because remember, I talked about this in the very first episode. We are going to come back and we're going to shave some rows off the side to thin her up a bit. We just haven't done it at this point in the tutorial yet, but that is going to be coming here in the not too distant future. I'm not exactly sure what episode it's going to fall on, but if I remember correctly, it's not that much further ahead from where we are right now, if I'm not mistaken. You can see I'm intentionally leaving this back row empty because I haven't figured out 110% how that shuttle bay is going to look just yet. Alright, there we go. Both sides match on the blending, so now we continue on filling this in. Alright, that's looking pretty good. It's not perfect. We can make adjustments to it. We just got to get something down to figure out what we have to do in the next few steps here. But yeah, see, even when we take off a couple of sides, what would have been most ideal here is if, because this top section here does work, but even when we shave off a couple of layers off the sides, there's still a little bit of a gap here between this section and this section. And basically kind of what I would have had to have done to fix that would either be make this part bigger or make this part smaller on the sides. Even when it's done, there's still going to be a tiny, tiny gap right there. But she's not looking too bad. Definitely making some pretty good progress on Voyager so far. Doesn't feel like it, but I mean, we're only 21 episodes in, and we've gotten a good chunk of the ship completed, believe it or not. Yeah, we are going to have to make some adjustments here and there, but I'm pretty happy with the progress overall of what we're making so far. We're really rocking and rolling on this thing. I'm hoping that I don't think Voyager will be a super long tutorial for Season 1. We might end up at like maybe 40 or 50 episodes, give or take. We'll see. We'll have to see where that ends up at. Now I want to zoom out here so you can get your starting point in place for that layer that we're about to do. So you can see we're starting this, which is essentially the second row of white concrete from the top. Because more or less what I'm about to do here is try to stretch out the pattern to fill in the gap just a little bit more. We're going to have to see how that works. The only problem that we're going to have with doing this is now at this point blending in this area that we just modded to the saucer. You can see I added a red block because that's going to be my stopping point, because we want to do the same thing on both the left side and the right side. So now we're going to repeat the same steps, and we're going to make sure that our stopping point is exactly the same. This way when we come back to make our alterations to make all of it work, when we blend it all in, we have our stopping point, and it's going to be established with that red builder block. This is why I use colors like that that are just standing out, so that this way I can see it and it pops out to me, and I can easily come back to make an adjustment to it. Now if we look at our cut line right here, this goes straight across here. This is why you don't have to zoom in and count it out or whatever it is, if you look at your line, this is how I'm able to do this without sitting here and doing all this crazy stuff to figure that out. Just looking at your cut line, your placement point, making sure it's the same on both sides. And you realize we pretty much deleted all of the outline for original backbone, but that's okay. I said we're gonna fix that up. So I think what we're gonna do here, right after that red concrete block, to try to blend this in a little bit better, that row of half slabs that's directly underneath that, we're gonna swap that out for full concrete white. Now you can see where that red block is really coming into play because that's our starting point for both the left side and the right side. This is going to be actually really cool to show this off because this will show you guys how you can make alterations and to keep up with those alterations more or less. Because this is just stuff that's it's inevitable. It's impossible to avoid it at times, especially when you're building something for the very first time. There's going to be that trial and error period. Nobody is so perfect at designing and building that they can do something just flawless the first time every single time. And if you are, more power to you, but the rest of us, it can take a trial and error period. To be honest with you, I prefer that trial and error period because it's with that where you, like I'll say, you'll stumble upon greatness because you're willing to try out different things. And you're not settling on something that maybe it just isn't working. This is why I also say it's so vital to, get something down and see how it looks, because having that in place, it gives you an idea of what you're ultimately going to need to do to fix it. That's basically to get, just to get right down to it. And it takes a couple of different things, having a few builds under your belt, knowing what to do, or at least knowing what to try, looking at your reference material and saying, okay, does this match up with what I have? Does it not match up? What do I need to do to make it match up? These are all the things I think about when I'm working on a build. I try to discuss these things so that this way you guys can maybe get in the same state of mind that I'm at when I'm building these ships, because I think it's important to talk about all this stuff because maybe not everybody else does and they don't go over their entire process as far as everything that they do. So I really try to make a point to cover this stuff too, because I mean, it's an essential part of the process. This is why I think my builds come out so well and why so many people like them, because I'm willing to take the time basically. I'm willing to make mistakes and show those mistakes. Sometimes, unfortunately, there are a few people here and there that just can't handle that and they have their meltdowns or whatever. But I don't do these tutorials for those people. Just going to be perfectly honest with you. Alright, so now that row of white concrete, we're going to come directly behind that and do a row of half slabs going all the way around. You can see where we stopped that right before we went at an angle with the single blocks. And now we're going to come back now and we're going to do a row of half slabs again going down with a cut line. But we're essentially stopping at the row where the saucer section is meeting the lower hull. And yeah, you know, you can always, and this other thing too, like the layering that we're adding, if you really wanted to, you can go on the inside of the ship and clean it up. I think we do a little bit of that, but to be honest with you, as long as I have enough room to work with, this isn't something that's super vital to the build. This is why, like, when I first started doing my tutorials, if I'd be doing layering like this, you guys would see me going back and deleting anything that's underneath it, because I would really try my hardest to keep the build as perfect as possible. But as I've gone through my tutorial series, from series to series, sometimes you end up spending a lot of that time clearing all that stuff out, and you don't even utilize that space. So that's why you don't see me going in and making those adjustments, because on all this area up here, I'm probably not going to utilize any of that, because I've already planned ahead. This whole section here is pretty much going to be the shuttle bay area, and then that'll go into engineering and everything else. But this top section here, there's really not going to be a heck of a lot that we're going to be doing up in that area, at least anything that I've planned so far. But I think we've gotten some pretty decent progress done today. We're about done with the template for the top section of the lower hull. Like I said, we're going to have to come back and shave off some sides here to slim Voyager down a little bit, but that'll be coming up. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for episode 21. We got some really cool stuff coming up on the channel in the future. We've got Voyager Season 2, if you guys want it, where I'm going to get into the interior on this ship, as well as taking care of some last-minute exterior details. If you guys want to see that, be sure to drop a comment below, or go on the community tab on YouTube. You can vote on that right now. I have a poll going. Also, we've got the Excelsior 2 class Let's Build that's going to be coming up immediately following Voyager Season 1. We've also got the Enterprise D Season 2 that'll be coming up, as well as the Enterprise A 2.0. That'll be coming up once we hit 1,000 subscribers. There's also going to be some other small builds that I'll be doing in between. A whole bunch of really cool stuff. But anyway, I think that's going to do it for me today. I just want to thank you all again for tuning in today's episode. If you did enjoy this content, please help me out. Hit that like and subscribe button, helping me support the channel. I can't thank you enough for that. And if you have any questions regarding today's episode, drop a comment below. Definitely love hearing from everybody. But yeah, I just want to thank everybody again for tuning in today's episode. I hope everybody has a happy and safe week. And of course, what did you make in Minecraft today? Let me know in the comments section.